Bali itself was fortunate. After a dark, violent night of wind and waves, sunrise the next day revealed some damage, but nothing catastrophic. Meanwhile, downtown Charleston saw some flooding, but it's since dried up. Further north, on Pawleys Island, dunes are being rebuilt, and the beach is open again after a powerful storm surge left its mark on this coastal community.
I don't see any movement on the left-hand side.
In Horry County, Conway's drying out after some heavy flooding along Highway 501. Along the Grand Strand, media reports indicate leaders there still haven't decided whether or not to rebuild a damaged pier in Surfside Beach. But the Spring-Made Pier in Myrtle Beach, also damaged, will be rebuilt. Hurricane Matthew punched the Midlands too, from places like Columbia to Manning to Lugoff. Communities were left with spots of flooding, no power, and a lot of trees down. On Coligny Beach in Hilton Head Island, visitors are back to enjoy the sand and sun. But all around, there are reminders of a violent storm that passed through here several weeks ago.
I heard it was pretty horrifying for people that stayed. Just the trees, you could hear them snapping like toothpicks and that. And I'm just glad that I had my family somewhere that was a little bit safer.
And the oyster bar took extensive damage. I mean, there was probably 3 feet of water in this area here. So what we've done is rip everything out.
But Andrew Carmine's restaurant, a popular one on the island, was in Hurricane Matthew's path when it brushed Hilton Head as a Category 2 storm.
We tried to batten down every hatch we could, boarded up all the windows, but we did have quite a bit of debris smash into the side of the building and open up some holes, and that's probably part of the reason why we had such extensive flood damage. My estimation, we probably had about 3 feet of water in this dining room, 3 feet of water in the bar, and 3 feet of water in the oyster factory dining room.
This is a driveway. Okay, all of these oyster shells were an embankment that went around this driveway, and we have now 4 feet, 3.5 feet of oyster shells that are piled up by the back door of the restaurant.
His restaurant is called Hudson Seafood House on the docks, but right now, there is no dock. A popular outdoor deck was demolished by waves as well.
The best way I can describe the damage that we have here is violent. I mean, there was some seriously violent force going on in this restaurant and the outer structures. It's pretty amazing.
Elsewhere on the island, boats were tossed around like toys at the Palmetto Bay Marina. A dock near the Harbortown Lighthouse was stripped. But the lighthouse itself is fine, as well as the nearby Liberty Oak, a 320-year-old tree. This landmark restaurant will be fine too after some more elbow grease.
The one thing that is the most concerning of the whole thing is that we've got near 100 employees that need to get back to work. So we're just trying to get it done quickly.
What we're doing now is just kind of dismantling the deck piece by piece so that our marine contractor can come in and rebuild it.
Carmine's and his staff aren't wasting time. They hope to start feeding tourists and locals again very soon.
We're going to be back and better than ever. One of my friends I was talking to said it's a speed bump, and I have to agree with that. I think you can look at it a number of different ways. Well, why did this happen? Or you know, this isn't fair, or that, but it does no good.
There's no bridge to Daufuskie Island. The journey begins on a ferry.
You just have to understand that if you don't bring it, it's probably not going to be here. We take our drinking and relaxing very seriously over here.
Weeks ago, Governor Nikki Haley warned the few hundred people on the island to leave as a powerful Hurricane Matthew aimed at the South Carolina coast.
If you know of anybody on Daufuskie that is staying, it is going to be underwater.
The National Guardsmen were coming to rescue us, and everyone kind of looked around at each other and said, well, we kind of are planning on staying here. What do you mean rescued? We're stocked up, ready to go. You know, we have our equipment and chainsaws fueled up, ready to go.
We have 100 people on Daufuskie, and the last ferry left out at 6 yesterday.
Despite the plea, about 100 people like David Hutton stayed put. They've later be called the Daufuskie 100.
We parked our equipment and cars out in the open field where no trees would fall down and boarded up the windows and rode it out there. We didn't really think about the showers enough, so it was really stuffy and BO. We had some bad BO in there, but other than that.
Others like Erica Veit stayed too to look after four-legged friends, the state's heritage horse, the Marsh Tacky.
How'd you do, Mama?
Just every second, trees snapping. So it's so frightening, so frightening.
The wind got so loud.
Rachel Allen stayed for that reason too. She's the equestrian director at Hague Point, a private community on the island.
When you can't take the horses off the island, being that we're a bridgeless island and there's not enough barge spaces to run them off, you really have to make some wise choices about their safety.
How did they do that?
Janet Adams, a nurse, stayed behind to look after the safety of her neighbors.
It was night, it was very dark when it actually came through, and we didn't know if what we were hearing was water from the storm surge, the waves, or wind. And we waited, patiently waited, or impatiently, some of us, for the sun to come up.
The morning after, here it is, folks. A lot of damage. Holy sh**.
And when it did, a huge mess was exposed. Remarkably, the Daufuskie 100 survived unscathed, but the island itself was badly injured. Beachside homes were tattered by wind and waves.
You can kind of see it happening.
Anderson Allen's live-aboard sailboat was tossed ashore by those waves.
Substantial hull damage and some damage to the transmission as well.
Can't get out of Hague Point.
But most notably, more than 2,000 trees had fallen.
No one had to tell anyone what to do. Everyone just knew right away. We didn't really have a plan so much as we had people who knew how to function together.
Cut through major trees.
The buzzing of chainsaws roared from one side of the island to the other as members of the 100, like Hutton, carved trees off roadways and off houses too. Chuck Hunter, chairman of the Island Council and a contractor, arrived the next day to volunteer with his own equipment and his own employees.
It looked like this everywhere I looked. I mean, everywhere I looked.
And that work is still ongoing.
When I tried to go to my house, it was impossible to get to my house. There was no roadway clear. There was barely a path that I could climb to.
But weeks later, Daufuskie's practically ready for visitors again.
And if you need proof they've done a lot of work here on Daufuskie Island, you can look at this road. It's one of the roads they use to get from the south side of the island up to the north side. Still, large pine trees blocking this road, and they say, believe it or not, most of the roads on the island look like this one just a couple weeks ago.
It was just people loving their neighbors as themselves, solely focused on doing the right thing and doing it the best they can.
Aaron Crosby, the pastor at Daufuskie's only church, says the island is fortunate.
Wherever you go, you see the difference between disaster and being okay. It was about this much. There's one great picture where a tree fell right in between two propane tanks. God just sort of pushed a tree just a little bit to the side just to say, here I am, guys, pay attention and give thanks.
Yeah, actually that is one of the big things.
Ultimately, he says Matthew brought this already close community closer together.
I think we're much stronger now as a result of this storm than we were before it.
First time I ever experienced anything like this. I don't have words to say.
To Rose Campbell, it's almost indescribable.
And just to see the water that was flowing from the back of my house and coming to the front of my house and it met like it just choking everything. It was just devastation.
Weeks ago, her Nichols home was partially submerged by two cresting rivers, swollen by rain from Matthew. The Little Petey River attacked her home from one side, and the Lumber River attacked from the other.
I lost my home, my clothing, my appliances, electronics, food, just material things. I just lost it all.
There's a chance Campbell and her family members could have lost their lives too, if not for her husband's dump truck.
My wife and daughter and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, they all got in the truck with me, in my Dodge truck. I got in the dump truck with another brother-in-law and we went out that way. The water was up on that dump truck up to the doors and I was parting the water and they was following me. That's the only way they could have got out.
They looked like the Red Sea had parted. I just closed my eyes and I kept them closed until I could start hear
the rushing of the water, and I'd peep every now and then, but once we got across the Lumber River Bridge, the water got lower.
I didn't think I was going to make it, but Lord, I made it.
Others in the town weren't as lucky.
I really didn't have time to prepare. The only thing I had on.
First responders rescued Samuel McDaniel and about 150 others by boat.
They did a fantastic job. The Lord did the best job. They did an outstanding job getting everybody out.
We've always been a team.
Mayor Lawson Battle was one of the many who helped rescue struggling neighbors, loading them up in the bed of his truck.
We have approximately 420 to 445 citizens in the town. We're all very close-knit. We all take care of each other. The town is probably 75% elderly population.
It was flooding no one expected, and it was flooding that happened more than a day after Matthew passed.
Nobody knew this was coming, and it came up so quick. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Like somebody had dropped a small town in the middle of the ocean. Yes, sir. It was that bad.
The mayor only escaped with his truck and 2 changes of clothes, but right now, his own home isn't something he's thinking about. He's thinking about rebuilding his town.
I broke down several times, but I'm not going to quit. I signed up for this, and I'm going to be here until it's fixed.
No doubt, it'll take a while.
There were 261 homes before this devastation started and 22 existing businesses. And now 234 or 5 have major damage or are completely destroyed, and all 22 businesses are destroyed.
Hundreds of those structures will likely be condemned.
We're going to have help from FEMA, from the state, from everywhere we can get it.
How will this town survive? The mayor says he doesn't have that answer yet.
Water was up to the hood of the buses.
Pastor Charles R. Johnson, whose church flooded, says faith will have to play a role.
God is still in control. That despite all of the water that came and the houses that are flooded and having to move out, that God is still in control, and that out of this, much good will come.
As she cleans up her soggy home, Campbell is keeping that faith.
When I came home and I saw the town that I was raised in from a baby up to now, just devastation, just things floating down out of people's homes, the cars drowning out, just to see what water could do to the lives of so many people in a matter of an hour. I just broke down and cried, but thanks to the good Lord, He's going to sustain us.
For now, on Edisto Beach, the beach traffic looks a bit different as the town and homeowners clean up.
The only thing that didn't float was the SUV, the boat, and the golf cart. Anything lighter than that floated.
Bill Boyne, who lives between Columbia and Edisto Beach, is still cleaning up after a powerful storm surge swept through the bottom floor of his near beachside home. Some of his belongings were swept away by a foot of water.
Back there we went up to 15, and over there we went up to 15.
Since then, he's been cleaning up a nasty layer of mud Matthew left behind. But the surge dumped sand on other neighbors further up one of the main thoroughfares through town, Palmetto Boulevard.
My wife and I have very good friends that live in the 500 block. They actually had sand up. They could not open their mailbox because when they went to open it, the sand would not allow the door to open.
An area of town the mayor is right now calling the Pyramids of Giza.
Right now what we're doing is we're taking the sand from the road and we're building 5 to 6 foot dunes behind this house, berms correctly, behind the house to try to protect them until we can get our beach reestablished. The beach is it's our industrial park.
Jane Darby has only been mayor here for about a year and a half.
This has been truly a trial by fire.
I was here, I started my tenure by being greeted by the 1,000-year flood. And we were just getting our last paperwork cleared up and payments in when here came Matthew.
Matthew not only covered roads with sand, it flattened homes.
We have 75 homes that either have severe or moderate damage.
The storm also shuttered business, tested the town's infrastructure, and closed beach accesses and the state park on the island too.
Tell me about the damage.
Our first reaction was, my God, what has happened? It looked like a bomb had gone off. You know, your heart starts beating fast, your stomach sinks, because this is your home. And I think the biggest celebration of all was of the people that stayed here, nobody died and nobody was injured.
The town is improving quickly.
We are impatient down here. We want things neat and tidy. We want our friends back. We want our neighbors back. So it was not an option to do anything but get it back and get it back as fast as we could.
The Ace Basin has always had a natural resources-based economy.
Meg Hoyle, who runs an eco-tour on the island, took us to another spot on Edisto treasured by many.
As Pat Conroy says, my wound is my geography. It really does leave a special mark for a lot of people.
It's a spot only accessible by boat right now. An undeveloped beachfront and wildlife management area called Botany Bay.
As you can see, it's not gone, it's not destroyed, it's been impacted, but there is still beach here that's available. It's still going to be used by nesting sea turtles and nesting shorebirds.
And a much photographed spot of the park seemed to hold up okay too. It's called Boneyard Beach.
As the trees die, then the salt water bleaches them that white, so it looks like bones rather than trees a lot of times.
Ultimately, she says this barrier island did its job by protecting the mainland from Matthew's rage.